Welcome to Oroleyengbo Show. This is Deep Conversation Podcast Talk Show with Dr. Olabanji Olagunju.
Imagine finding out that the entity you've been fiercely praying against your entire life,
Right.
like the ultimate source of evil, the root of all your
An
hardships.
absolute adversary in your universe, basically.
Exactly. Imagine discovering that this terrifying entity was originally just the cosmic messenger tasked with delivering your prayers.
Yeah, that's a wild thought.
It is. Imagine discovering that a massive civilization-defining spiritual war is actually, the result of a 19th century translation error.
A literal dictionary mistake.
Right. So today, for you listening, we are pulling apart one of the most profound historical accidents in human history.
It really is.
We're going on a deep dive into a specific moment when a deeply complex, ancient spiritual ecosystem collided with a very rigid, absolute theology.
And how that collision completely rewired an entire culture.
Yeah. And the mechanics of that collision are captured in this fascinating sociological and theological study we're unpacking today.
Right. The text is titled Divine Misalignment, the Distortion of Ao in Modern Faith.
Which is such a powerful title.
It really is. And the focus here is the Yoruba people, which, if you don't know, is a massive, profoundly influential ethnic group primarily in southwestern Nigeria.
But their cultural and spiritual influence, it extends all across the globe.
Oh, absolutely. Through the diaspora, it's everywhere. And this text meticulously documents how the traditional Yoruba deity known as Ao was forcefully and incorrectly translated into the Abrahamic concept of Satan.
And this isn't just some, dusty footnote in a linguistics journal somewhere.
At all.
This single mistranslation has dynamically reshaped modern Yoruba Christianity, which, by the way, is practiced by tens of millions of people today.
Yeah, it's a living, breathing reality for so many.
And it has also essentially written the script for Nollywood.
Right, one of the largest and most prolific film industries on the planet.
Yeah. So we're going to look at the original blueprints of these two completely different belief systems, figure out exactly how the structural load-bearing pillars got swapped.
Wires got crossed, basically.
Exactly. And trace how a really nuanced cosmic force got flattened into a movie monster.
But to do that effectively, we have to establish the analytical baseline that the source material demands.
Right, setting the ground rules for the deep dive.
Exactly. We are looking exclusively at the sociology and the structural mechanics of cultural translation here.
It's an autopsy of an idea.
That's a perfect way to put it. It's an autopsy. We are not evaluating the spiritual validity of the Abrahamic faiths.
Right, no judgment there.
And we aren't judging the modern lived reality of Yoruba Christianity either. The goal is just to observe what happens when a highly specific native spiritual concept is shoved across a linguistic bridge.
And forced to wear a completely alien definition.
Precisely.
And the text gives us a really sharp tool for that autopsy.
Sure.
It demands we look at two very distinct words, which are function and definition.
This is the core of the whole issue.
Yeah. It states that we have to understand how Irkasi functions in Yoruba cosmology versus how Satan is defined in the text of the Bible and the Quran. That verb choice, functions versus is defined, it feels like the key to unlocking this entire misalignment.
The distinction between those two concepts is literally everything here. When a cosmology is described in terms of its function, we're talking about a living, interconnected machine.
Like an engine.
Or an ecosystem. Traditional Yoruba cosmology doesn't view the universe as a battlefield between pure good and pure evil.
Interesting.
Yeah, it views the universe as a vast, delicate ecosystem that's powered by an energy called Ah.
Ah?
Right. And in any healthy ecosystem, every single element has a role.
The predator, the prey.
Exactly. The storm, the drought, it all has a necessary job to do to maintain the overall balance of the system.
So spiritual entities in this framework aren't just like symbols of human morality.
No, not at all.
They are the actual gears turning the universe.
Precisely. And in that massive turning machine, S holds one of the most critical, high-stakes functions imaginable.
Okay, so what is his actual job?
He is the guardian of the crossroads. He's the divine linguist.
The divine linguist. Wait, what does that mean?
It means he understands all human and spiritual languages, making him the sole messenger who can take human sacrifices and prayers from the physical realm and deliver them to Olodumare, the supreme creator, and the other Orishas, the deities.
So if you want the gods to hear you, you have to go through him.
Exactly. But his function goes much deeper than just being a cosmic mailman.
Right.
He is the enforcer of cosmic justice. He is the ultimate tester of human character.
Okay, let's unpack this.
Yeah.
Because I want to bring back an analogy we've tossed around before that perfectly captures this.
Yeah, go for it.
Because it moves away from religion and into pure mechanics.
Right.
Which helps us see the structure. It's like looking at the architecture of a massive tech company.
Right.
Ellie's role is the equivalent of the system stress tester.
Like a white hat hacker.
Exactly. White hat hacker. This is a highly specialized, absolutely vital employee whose entire daily mandate is to, probe the company's network.
Introduce controlled chaos.
Yeah, introduce chaos. Send phishing emails to the staff. Aggressively attack the firewalls.
With the ultimate goal of that controlled chaos being survival.
Yes, exactly. Without the stress tester, the system gets complacent. Vulnerabilities build up in the dark.
Right, nobody is checking the locks.
Yeah. And eventually, a real catastrophe destroys the whole company. So the stress tester brings adversity, sure. They cause headaches.
They force you to change your passwords every 30 days.
Right, they heighten your security.
No.
But they work for the system. They are an integrated functional necessity for the overall health of the ecosystem.
That maps beautifully onto the traditional understanding of El. He introduces conflict. He presents difficult choices at the crossroads of life.
The hence guardian of the crossroads.
Exactly. And he ensures that actions have consequences. He triggers the mechanisms of cause and effect.
So it's not malicious.
No, not at all. Like, if you are arrogant, El might introduce a humiliating situation, but not out of pure malice.
But to restore your humility.
Right. And by extension, to restore the social balance of your community.
Wait, that makes total sense. But then, history happens. During the colonial era, a completely new management team takes over this territory.
A very different management team.
Yeah. We're talking about the arrival of European missionaries and this massive undertaking of translating the English Bible into the Yoruba language in the mid-19th century.
Right.
This new management team comes from an entirely different worldview. They do not have a concept of a cosmic stress tester.
It wasn't in their theological vocabulary.
Exactly. They look at this entity who introduces adversity, who plays tricks, who causes friction, and they immediately slap the label of the saboteur on him.
They needed a localized word for the devil.
Yeah.
The Christian missionaries in the source text specifically points out Bishop Samuel Ajayi Crowther here.
Who was Yoruba himself, right?
Yes, he was Yoruba, but he was operating under a deeply Victorian Christian theological framework.
Ah, I see.
They were trying to map a binary absolutist theology onto a non-binary functional cosmology.
It's like forcing a square peg into a round hole.
Exactly. They looked at the Abrahamic texts, where Satan is not a functioning gear in the machine of the universe.
Right. Satan isn't on the payroll.
Exactly. Satan is defined by ultimate, irredeemable opposition.
So the definition in the Abrahamic texts is static. It's absolute.
Yes.
Satan isn't testing the firewalls to make the company stronger. He's trying to burn the server room to the ground.
That is the perfect way to phrase it. The theological texts of Christianity and Islam define Satan as the adversary to God himself.
He's the embodiment of rebellion.
Rebellion, deception, destruction. His identity is fundamentally separated from the divine order. He is the disruption of the ultimate good.
Okay, so when the missionaries chose the word A to translate Satan, they weren't just swapping vocabulary.
No, it was way more invasive than that.
They were violently extracting a functional balancing gear from the Yoruba psychological ecosystem.
And replacing it with an entity of absolute, unmitigated malice.
But let me push back on this framing a little bit, because, history's messy.
Oh, very messy.
Whenever two massive cultural paradigms collide, like the expansion of global Christianity meeting an indigenous African religion, isn't a significant amount of redefinition entirely inevitable.
Sure, synthesis happens all the time.
Right. Cultures synthesize. Ideas morph.
Yeah.
So why does the source material specifically diagnose this as a distortion or a misalignment, rather than just a natural organic evolution of spiritual ideas over time?
That's a great question. The source categorizes it as a distortion because it fundamentally broke the internal logic of the original system.
Okay.
And it did so without the consent or understanding of the people within it. Syncretism, which is the natural blending of religions, usually involves finding actual parallels.
Like finding a similar god of thunder or something?
Exactly. But mapping Satan onto A is an anti-parallel. It's an anatomical mismatch.
Wow.
Think about it. If you tell a population that the entity responsible for taking their prayers to heaven is actually the supreme enemy of heaven,
Oh, man.
you create an immediate terrifying paradox in the mind of the believer.
It's like it's installing an antivirus software that has been hard-coded to identify your computer's own underlying operating system as a fatal virus.
Yes, the system attacks itself.
Because suddenly, the entity that you relied on to manage the nuances of your daily life, the one who tested you so you could grow us,
Is redefined as an invisible predator trying to damn your soul to hell.
the psychological whiplash of that is profound.
It is profound, and that is exactly what the source means by divine misalignment.
The title of the study.
Right. In engineering, a misalignment occurs when two parts that were never designed to interact are forced onto the same axis.
They grind.
They grind. They generate massive amounts of destructive friction. And the source argues that modern Yoruba Christianity, while being this incredibly vibrant and powerful global faith today,
Which it absolutely is.
it was built directly on top of this grinding, friction-heavy axis.
Which changes everything about how a human being navigates a Tuesday.
Yeah.
Think about it. If you lose your job or your crops fail or you get sick, under the old functional cosmology, that adversity was a prompt for introspection. Right?
Exactly. You would ask yourself, what did I do to disrupt the balance?
Did I fail to sacrifice? Did I offend a neighbor?
Anna is testing me. How do I restore the equilibrium?
So the response is diagnostic. You consult the system to find the structural flaw.
That's right. The response is diagnostic.
But under the misaligned theology, if you lose your job, it's an act of spiritual warfare.
It's an attack.
Right. Satan, who is still subconsciously carrying the localized, ubiquitous weight of a toe in the culture, is attacking you.
So the response isn't introspection anymore.
No, it's combat. You don't restore balance, you bind, you rebuke, you fight.
The shift from a diagnostic worldview to a combative worldview is arguably the most visible legacy of this translation error.
Wow.
Modern Yoruba Christianity, particularly the massive Pentecostal and charismatic movements, is intensely focused on spiritual warfare.
Yeah, the prayers are often deeply martial.
Very martial. Believers spend significant time and emotional energy binding and fighting against demonic forces. And those forces are frequently conceptualized through the distorted, localized lens of Akeley.
So he's still everywhere, but now he's evil.
Exactly. The source text highlights how this misalignment created a hybrid theology that basically operates on hypervigilance.
I want you, the listener, to really sit with the gravity of that. We are talking about the daily reality of millions of people.
Yes.
People building hospitals, running schools, raising children, shaping the political destiny of massive nations.
Right.
And they are all operating under a psychological framework that was quite literally birthed from a Victorian-era dictionary error.
It's staggering when you scale it up.
It really is. But this raises a fascinating question about the nature of belief itself.
Oh.
If a modern faith is built on a demonstrable historical misunderstanding, does it matter?
That's the big question.
Right, because the faith works for the people practicing it today. It gives them community, resilience, a moral compass.
And the source is remarkably disciplined about maintaining that boundary.
Oh, really? It doesn't judge it?
It does not. It does not argue that the resulting faith is spiritually void. Human sociology is incredibly resilient.
Yeah, we adapt.
We do. People can take a misaligned foundation, build a towering, magnificent structure on top of it, and successfully live in that structure for generations.
The hybrid theology functions on its own terms now.
Exactly. The modern Yoruba Christian who prays against Satan or Edo is having a genuine, deeply felt spiritual experience.
The subjective reality is completely real to them.
Absolutely real. The value of this deep dive isn't to debunk their experience.
Right.
The value is reverse engineering the architecture to understand why the building leans the way it does.
I love that.
Understanding the historical mistranslation explains the specific, intense flavor of the spiritual warfare in West African Pentecostalism.
It explains why the devil in this specific cultural context feels so deeply embedded, so ubiquitous.
And so active in the mundane details of daily life.
Right, because he is occupying the cultural real estate of a deity whose original job was to be everywhere, in every mundane detail.
Exactly. The real estate was already there.
But theology doesn't just stay trapped in academic papers or historical analysis,
It leaks out.
or even just within the four walls of a church on a Sunday. For a concept to truly rewire the DNA of a widespread culture, it needs an amplifier.
It needs a megaphone.
Yeah, it needs a machine that constantly broadcasts the new rules, constantly reminds people who the bad guy is.
And visualizes the abstract theology for the masses.
Yes, and in West Africa, and increasingly across the entire global diaspora, that cultural engine is Nollywood.
A Nigerian film industry.
Which is huge.
The scale of Nollywood is crucial context here. It's one of the largest film industries in the world by sheer volume of output.
They make, what, thousands of films a year?
Thousands of films annually. And its cultural penetration is staggering. It is the dominant visual storyteller for the African continent.
And our source text draws a thick, direct line between the theological distortion of A and the narrative tropes of Nollywood cinema.
It absolutely does.
Because if you're a filmmaker, you have a very specific set of problems to solve.
Yeah, I do.
You have 2 hours to tell a compelling story, keep an audience hooked, and sell DVDs or streaming subscriptions.
And cinema, especially high-volume, commercially driven cinema, is allergic to deep cosmological nuance.
Nuance slows down the plot.
It really does. If you are writing a thriller about a family facing a sudden, inexplicable tragedy, you cannot spend 45 minutes of screen time explaining that the spiritual force causing the tragedy is actually a cosmic stress tester.
Right, operating on behalf of an intricate system of natural balance.
Yeah, and that the family simply needs to undergo a complex process of social and spiritual realignment.
No one is eating popcorn to that.
Exactly.
The audience needs a villain. They need a bad guy in a black hat so the good guy in the white hat can defeat him in the third act.
The medium of film fundamentally demands absolute definitions.
Which perfectly mirrors the rigid Abrahamic definition of Satan.
Yes. Nollywood becomes the ultimate vehicle for solidifying the Satanification of ESU.
The Satanification, that's a great term.
The industry takes the complex functional reality of the traditional cosmology and strips away all the nuance.
They strip away the balance, the systemic logic.
And they flatten the traditional spiritual world into a recognizable cinematic trope of absolute, terrifying evil.
Think about the visual grammar of these movies for a second. If you've ever seen a classic Nollywood spiritual thriller, the tropes are universally recognizable.
Oh, completely.
You have the Babalawo, the traditional priest,
Right.
and the original functioning cosmology. This person is a healer, a diagnostician.
It's a vital community leader who interprets the will of the ecosystem.
Exactly. But through the misaligned lens of Nollywood, the traditional priest is almost exclusively depicted as a sinister agent of darkness.
Always bathed in red light.
Always the red lighting. Surrounded by ominous chanting, actively working to destroy the lives of innocent protagonists using the power of the village deities.
Which is just cinematic shorthand for demonic power.
Exactly.
The traditional cosmology is used exclusively as a reservoir for horror elements.
Wow.
When a Nollywood script requires a spiritual antagonist to cause barrenness or financial ruin or madness,
They just pull from the old religion.
yeah, the misaligned concept of the traditional deities acting as proxies for Satan is a ready-made cultural shorthand.
So the filmmaker doesn't need to do any world building.
None at all. The audience already holds the misaligned definition in their minds from their modern theological context.
A movie just triggers the pre-existing fear.
Exactly. It's highly efficient storytelling.
It's a flawless, self-sustaining cultural feedback loop.
It really is.
It's like a funhouse mirror that slowly replaces reality. The colonial translation creates the theological fear.
The church validates the fear.
Right. And then the filmmakers realize the fear is highly profitable, so they make 1,000 movies dramatizing it.
And then the audience watches the movies, sees the traditional priest acting like a cartoon villain, and their theological fear is validated visually.
The screen dictates the belief, and the belief dictates the screen.
Nollywood actively, relentlessly reinforces the distortion. It takes an abstract 19th century linguistic error,
It gives it a terrifying face.
a terrifying face, a menacing voice, and a suspenseful soundtrack.
And the sociological result of this constant broadcasting is profound. It ensures that any attempt to reclaim or academically understand the original functional role of Adele is incredibly difficult.
Because you are fighting against thousands of hours of high-definition emotional conditioning.
That conditioning is so powerful. I mean, think about your own media diet for a second.
Yeah, it applies to everything.
Think about how many concepts you know purely because you've seen them depicted a certain way in 50 different movies.
Like how hackers break into mainframes by typing incredibly fast.
Yes. Or how police investigations work. or how outer space sounds.
Visual repetition eventually overwrites intellectual reality.
It does. It does not matter what the original ancient architects of Yoruba cosmology intended if every blockbuster, every soap opera, and every direct-to-video thriller tells a billion people a different story.
The movie version, the terrifying, misaligned version, becomes the truth on the ground.
The irony is deeply layered here.
Oh, it's incredibly ironic.
We started this deep dive with the abstract, almost academic mechanics of cosmological functions versus linguistic definitions.
And we ended by explaining the literal plot devices of modern global entertainment.
It just demonstrates that the DNA of ancient, complex ideas never truly vanishes. It just mutates.
Mutates is the perfect word. Nollywood isn't creating this theological distortion out of thin air.
Right, they didn't invent it.
No, it is merely the ultimate high-powered mirror reflecting and magnifying a historical shift that happened in dictionaries and missionary texts over a century ago.
This has been an incredibly dense, paradigm-shifting journey. Let's pull the camera all the way back and look at the whole landscape we just covered.
Good idea.
We started by looking at the blueprints of two totally different architectures of reality.
On one side, we had the active, balancing, ecosystem-driven function of AO in Yoruba cosmology.
The cosmic stress tester.
Right. And on the other side, we had the static, rigid, purely oppositional definition of Satan in the Abrahamic texts.
The ultimate saboteur.
We then explored the mechanics of the collision. How forcing the Abrahamic definition onto the Yoruba function created a massive divine misalignment.
Which was not a harmless linguistic quirk.
Not at all. It actively, forcefully reshaped the psychology and theology of modern Yoruba Christianity.
Shifting an entire culture from a paradigm of systemic balance and introspection into a daily reality of combative spiritual warfare against an omnipresent adversary.
And finally, we tracked how that historical distortion broke out of the church and into the culture at large,
finding its ultimate amplifier in the massive Nollywood film industry.
The movies flattened the complex theology into a binary battle of good versus evil,
turning an ancient guardian of the crossroads into a mass-market movie monster.
And creating a feedback loop that cements the distortion for the next generation.
It is a masterclass in the immense power of definitions.
It really is. It shows us how fragile, complex ideas are when they cross cultural borders.
And how a single misunderstanding can survive, adapt, and eventually dominate the worldview of millions.
It's wild.
It really is a wake-up call to look past the surface of the things we take for granted. This deep dive wasn't just about the history of West African theology or the mechanics of the global film industry.
No, it's much bigger than that.
It's fundamentally about how human beings share information, how we attempt to understand the unknown.
And how easily we can accidentally overwrite the truth when we are just looking for a simple answer.
Which leaves us with a necessary and perhaps slightly uncomfortable question to apply to our own modern daily lives.
Yeah, I think this is the most important part.
We have just dissected how a massive cultural machine like Nollywood can unwittingly enforce a profound historical misalignment. You have to ask yourself, as you navigate your own culture, your own streaming platforms, your own news feeds,
what ancient, complex concepts have been quietly mistranslated for you?
What fundamental pillars of your own reality, what historical truths or nuanced human experiences are currently disguised as simple binary entertainment on a screen?
What are the stress testers in your own life that you've been conditioned to view as saboteurs?
That is a thought that should completely change how you watch your next movie. Look closely at the blueprints, keep questioning the definitions you've been handed, and thank you for taking this massive, intricate journey through history and culture with us. We will catch you on the next deep dive.
Banjola gunju afi gbéraga ayẹlẹ tọrẹ ní gbogbo ìgbà oríkìrè tí a máa fi gbọ́ ó wà lọ́nà tí ó wọ́ tí ó bá fẹ́ sùn máa fi ìgbàgbọ́ àti fọ́rọ̀ rẹ̀ fi ránṣẹ́ lára wa ire ni ó mú wa. Nítorí tí a nífẹ̀ẹ́ èmi rẹ̀ dá kí ó máa wà ní pẹ̀lẹ́bẹ̀ ọmọ àdìmúlá tí ó yẹ gbọ́ gbogbo ènìyàn ni wọ́n nífẹ̀ẹ́ sí gbogbo wa nígbọ́. sí mi máa wo ìfẹ́ mi ò ní sọ̀rọ̀. Oríkì rẹ̀ tí a máa fi gbọ́. Ọmọ wa ó wà lọ́nà tí ó wọ́n. Tí ó bá fẹ́ sùn máa fi ìgbàgbọ́ àti fọ́rọ̀ rẹ̀ fi ránṣẹ́ lára wa. Àìlà fún wa pẹ̀lú orísun gbogbo. Ìjà bá ń pa àforíkì wa sọ̀rọ̀. Ọ̀njì bí orúkọ rẹ̀ ṣe sọ̀rẹ́. Kòǹgbà kájọ fi wọ́n bí àyọ̀dọ̀ rẹ̀. Oríkì rẹ̀ tí a máa fi gbọ́. Ọmọ wa ó wà lọ́nà tí ó wọ́n. Tí ó bá fẹ́ sùn máa fi ìgbàgbọ́ àti fọ́rọ̀ rẹ̀ fi ránṣẹ́ lára wa. Ọjọ́ lágúnjú ni mo nífẹ̀ẹ́. Oríkì rẹ̀ ó máa gbé wa lórí. Gbogbo àyè gbọ́yìn tí